Okay, everybody ready? Oh, good.
We're ready.
Oh, the last couple of classes we've talked about bulletin 222 briefly. Out of the last Tuesday's meeting, we decided that we're going to try and break it down in chunks. The biggest changes on the buyer side. Listing brokers have been talking about commissions for buy side and sell side with their clients when they have a listing agreement. On the buyer side, typically, we meet somebody, we talk to them about with their agency log disclosure. And at some point, when the relationship develops, you talk about how you get paid. Up until now, it's been 100% from the sell side. Today, after some of the classes that I've been through and Lauren and a group of us have been watching this, if you don't have a listing agreement or a buyer representation agreement with your buyer, you may not get paid. And that was a big shock to find that out. And so it's really important not only to have the agency agreement, but also have an agency agreement where you talk to your buyer about what you will be compensated. And if I'm going to be compensated, let's say, and I'm not supposed to use numbers because we have to worry about that, but you say X%. Okay, I want X% for my services. The first conversation that you have with your buyer, if that's what you're talking to, is sometimes awkward because it's going to be the question coming back and say, that's a lot of money. Why am I giving you X%? Why? And how do I know that I don't have enough money for my down payment, my earnest money, and I'm supposed to fork that out for you? How's that work? And in that conversation, they're going to be talking about this form is what you're going to be putting in front of them. This is form 41. And in the area of compensation, we're coming along and saying, I want to have X% or whatever dollars amount are. And if I come down through this form now, I'm going to say compensation from the seller. The seller may offer compensation, and it starts talking about if they do, it will go towards the payment for my services, and you won't have to pay that part of it. Now, certain things happen. What happens when the compensation that's being offered by the seller is exactly the same as what you have with your buyer, then all is good. Everything's fine. You don't have to pay me anything. Everything's good. Now, if it is more than what I've agreed with you to get paid, we're gonna have leftover dollars. And so in this little area here, it starts talking about what the leftover dollars happen. It is paid to the buyer brokerage firm, is credited to the buyer, or is it an amount that's going to be credited to the seller? What's going to happen to that extra amount? So before I've ever shown you a property, I'm asking you, what are we going to do with this over money? You're going to give it to me? Or you're going to give it back to the seller? Oh, you want it to go to you? Okay. That's a conversation that has to be had first time you're meeting your buyer. Now, if that's not awkward enough, here we go. Compensation from the buyer. Let's say that X% and Y% are offered. And what I have agreed with you as my buyer, the seller is lowballing with a 1% or the X amount. And all of a sudden I'm short. How is that going to be paid? And so now there's a discussion about what the options are for when it's less than the above amount that we have to go through. Now, in going through these changes, the companion form with this is form 41C. And I don't need this form if it's exactly right or is to the best, but if I have to ask the seller, maybe they'll increase their amount. There's some options in here. What happens if the buyer broker has no compensation in their offer? It's a 0 in the MLS versus whether it is going to be a buyer representation agreement where the additional brokerage firm compensation, or is there going to be a credit from the buyer, or are you going to reduce your amount to match it so that the deal will go through for your buyer. So it's really something that both of these forms really need to be in the buy side, forward in your mind. And we really need to have a lot of deep conversations with these, which we plan on doing in this forum. But before we got there, the most important thing is, what about our first conversation? It's been a long time since I remember sitting down with a group and going through, what's our value proposition? Where do I feel comfortable in meeting somebody new and developing rapport and say, I am going to be representing you as a broker. I need to talk to you about compensation because of the rules as a broker. There's certain things I need to do. And one of them is discussing not only agency law about buyer brokers, seller brokers, and have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for you as a buyer. But in addition to that, I need to disclose how I get paid. And I really would like to go over that with you. And this is how the compensation works. And in that conversation, at some point, the question is going to come, why are you worth that amount of money? What are you doing? What do? You open up the door a couple of times and you write up a contract and it's all of this money goes to you? Well, we all know that a big chunk of it goes to the house, and then a big chunk of it goes to taxes, a big chunk of it goes because you have a car and computers, and I mean, you have overhead, you have a business. It's there's a lot of things that suck it all up before you ever get what's left over. But I don't know that that's going to be something that's compelling for me to talk to a buyer about what I do. And so what we've broken down, and I'll just kind of show you what we want to facilitate today, is what's the buyer broker value proposition, as far as not only how many years I've been in doing this, what my background experience is, what are the different tools and the different types of research and the different things I can do, my expertise in negotiating, my expertise in contracts and what proper forms and how to fill them out and use them to protect your interests in case you want to get out of your deal. How do I protect you so that you can? There's some tripwires in there. And so I want to start collecting some of these things from us as a group to where's our power as a licensed broker. The next thing is a selling broker value proposition. We need to do that also, because the listing side of this is important. That listing broker is trying to talk to their client about, is there an advantage and pros and cons of having a zero for the buy side, and then what it is for my side and what I'm doing for you. We want to talk that one through. And then last but not least, and I know Russ is around here, I wanted him to chip in, but I think KW as a firm, we not only have ourselves as brokers, that we have a lot to offer for our experience, and not only just our experience, but our collective experience that we have because we work as a team around there. And if I don't know an answer, I know I can get the answer from others that we work together on our team. And KW has command. It has different things for marketing. It has different things for being able to have networking with brokers. There's an advantage for our company and how it's structured and how we stay communicating with each other, and on the education that we have, the continued education that we have to stay on the leading edge of what's going on in the industry, nationally, in the state, locally. All of these things are important to understand what's going on in real estate, not only just interest rates, but also what's going on in the market and how pricing is, and our expertise in doing CMAs, and what other kind of tools do we have available for us in KW. So with that overview, what I'd really like to do is go back and start on the buyer side with buyer brokers. And before I do take off on that, is there any comments from anybody as far as they'd like to kick in as far as what we're getting ready to do? Yeah.
I got the beginnings of the list here. If you need to put on what that was.
All right, Marcia, it's time for you to take over. Go for it.
Me?
Yeah. Once you get throw one out there, don't put up a whole list. I mean, let's just gotta make it. Well, chum it up a little bit.
Yeah, chum it up. Well, I think the number one thing that the Washington Association of Realtors started with is hyperlocal knowledge, right? So you are the local expert, right? You're not just looking at national trends, which, let's be honest, most of our buyers are also nervously poring over national trends, right? That's where they get a lot of their doom and gloom from. The housing market's gonna crash. The interest rates are gonna skyrocket, right? Super local knowledge about how perhaps our market is a little insulated from some of those effects. Housing values have continued to rise steadily here, right? If they taper off, it's usually listings that were overpriced to begin with. So
how would you word that?
I would word that as I would use the word hyper local, right? It's not enough to be
Make it
just
super
local,
hyper local.
super hyper local.
Yeah.
You can put superlatives on it as much as you want, but it's just letting them know that you know about the neighborhood they want to be in, not just the zip code, not just the county, right? Get in there and be granular about your knowledge. And that's for anybody, whether you're born and raised where you're selling or whether you just moved there last week. There's plenty of groups, there's plenty of opportunities to get in, be a part of the community, and just learn neat things about where it is you're trying to sell in. And that's where I would lean into agents that have maybe been in the area and ask them. So if you are selling in a neighborhood and you're like, I don't know anything about this neighborhood, lean into it and actually be able to back that up. But that is a value, part of the value proposition I would recommend, is just being knowledgeable locally.
When you're saying that, because I do a lot of land deals, but I do an awful lot of education in the area of fires, bears, rattlesnakes, bitter brush. I mean, you start talking about living here, the heat expansion in the summer and contraction in the winter. If you're going to build a house, be sure you have a designer that knows how to build in North Central Washington, not Seattle. But I think that falls into that whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you call that fire just education?
Well, it just the elements of living in the four seasons. And we know about that, and people come in. I'm showing people this all weekend from Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
They didn't know about hills.
They thought they knew about it.
They were shocked that driveways are steep. Okay.
Yeah.
In Chelan, right. So there's a lot of education from people out of town.
How do we get up there?
Yeah. So who else has got some? What would you say? Anybody? Somebody else throw something. What is it that you would compel people that they should work with you because of your knowledge, your experience? What kind of knowledge? What kind of experience?
I guess a big thing for me would be contracts, knowing the contingencies.
Sure.
Because my understanding, they don't really have access to those forms. I mean, I guess they would handwrite something and think that they're protecting themselves. So I think that would be a big one.
Sure. Real estate contracts is not something that everybody's knowledgeable about.
Yeah, and maybe give some examples of things that have happened in the past and how you've helped buyers, either back out of the deal and I don't know, I mean, I've heard that if they, because a lot of people are like, well, I'll just use a lawyer. And I've heard that the lawyer can help you with the forms, but are they going to help you with negotiations and talking with the listing agent?
They're not going to show up for inspections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean, and I don't know, I've heard that, a lawyer will probably end up more expensive. I don't know if that's true or if there's a way to find that data to kind of show you're not paying us twice as much as you would a lawyer. I don't know.
So the going rate for a good lawyer minimum, where's Russ?
He's in his office.
Yeah.
Where's Russ?
Yeah.
A good one is $350 to $500. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about lawyers, because I've been working with lawyers for 40, 50 years, they're like doctors. You have generalists and then you have experts. You don't want a generalist doing knee surgery on you. Okay. Real estate law isn't something where you have a lot of lawyers around that just focus on real estate.
The price just went up.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're going to get into something on contracts, you don't want a marriage counselor helping you with your real estate deal.
Well, and the other thing about, so maybe being paid in an hourly rate, there's no impetus for them to actually finish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or do it quickly.
Or do it
Yeah.
quickly, because the longer they
Well,
take, the more money they make.
And when we're on that topic, and what we talk about in every class is that we have the limited capacity to work as a lawyer with our broker license. I think that's something that we should be talking about, because our expertise not only on the contracts, but selecting the right forms, filling them out correctly, and also understanding what we can do to protect our buyer during that transaction. If things come up, how are they going to navigate problem solving if they find things in inspection they don't know about and how to deal with? You have the seller disclosure, which is a can of worms. If they even know about that, something required by law that needs to be looked at and signed off on. So I think the whole they're knowledgeable about negotiating, about contracts, and also being able to work in the capacity of an attorney within a limited scope. Those are pretty powerful things that they don't know. Yeah.
I guess that just made me think of, also kind of knowing the listing agents in the area and kind of how they operate
Yes.
and how they tend to, I guess, respond to certain.
That's a good one, because if you're dealing with a professional real estate broker that's trying to get the highest price for their client, you need to have somebody that's representing you that knows that broker, knows that firm, knows this area to be able to get them the best deal they can.
I think one of the big ones is saving them time. It's like if you were going to do this, you're gonna have to deal with repairs, you're gonna have to deal with, inspections, you're gonna have to, all of that stuff. You can continue to box all your stuff up, because you're going to be moving and you're gonna be real busy. Maybe you're working full time and you're trying to move, and now you're trying to do all of this work yourself.
Sure.
Let us focus on what you want. And we're gonna bring you to 3 houses and hopefully they meet your needs and we can move forward from there. Let us do the digging, let us do the legwork.
So what would you like her to write up here, Kat?
Time saver, let us do the legwork, I guess. I don't know.
When you were saying that, what hit me was, what is the advantage that we bring because we know if they need to have somebody move things for them, or if they need somebody to have a repair before they move in, or get an estimate on a roof, or if they, what about our little black book about who we know
We know people.
for our experts and expertise that I might not be able to do those things that I'm recommending to you because I'm a real estate broker. I have to stay within my license, but I have a black book and I know experts in excavation. I know experts in repair. I know inspectors that I really could recommend that would really work well with you to check your house out before you buy it. So I think our level of our expert list and knowledge of the experts in the region is something if they're from out of town, they don't know. Even if they're in town, they might not know.
We are a resource.
Yeah. Yes.
Even I have something to throw.
Come on, throw it in there, Greg.
Yeah.
Experts also in financial markets, mortgage lending, good
Absolutely.
advice on current market
Sure.
trends, interest rates, like the other gentleman described.
Yeah. Yeah, because we do have resources, not only Keller Mortgage, but I don't know how many times Michael Maher has come up with ways to save deals and hold them together. I think that even goes for escrow officers and title companies, knowing how
Which
to
ones
make
are good?
sure that they're taken care of and have a good close.
Company.
Yeah.
Much better than that.
Part of the time with that too is, title reports are incredibly confusing. I mean, it took me a long time to kind of understand how to read them. Like buyers aren't gonna read that.
They're not
They're
gonna know what it
barely
means.
gonna open the lake, so they're not gonna understand where the easement is and how. So, knowing how to read the title report is huge.
Sure. And when to talk to a surveyor if they really need to have somebody that really knows what an easement is, and how to translate
Understanding the
it.
costs of what, especially with land stuff, they're paying for a lot of things during that feasibility. So knowing kind of what they're getting into. I have another one if I could just keep taking.
Go for it.
We run a roll, go ahead.
Yeah, so understanding how appraisals are different with different loan types and what appraisers actually look out for
Mhm.
in condition of houses. And appraisers can be very nitpicky, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so explaining to your buyers that certain, like peeling paint might not bother them, but it bothers the FHA appraiser.
Are you gonna pay for the paint?
Or-
Yeah.
I don't care if there's not a range in here to fix a flipper. Your lender is gonna want a bare minimum of appliance installation. Knowing those things is huge.
So how does Marcia write that one up there?
Oh, well, I
So
need,
far, she's into the peeling paint.
hold on. I'll just
Wait,
bring,
catch up. I think you just said, understanding the appraisals and on different loan types, just.
The requirements of the different types of loans.
Yeah.
Like FHA, VA. That's, and that basically was saying
Exactly,
the requirements of the different types of
Yeah,
loans.
the peculiarities of different programs.
Mhm. USDA.
Now you're just getting peculiarities.
You got us the source.
Yeah.
all right, that's as good as it gets. All right, next.
Do you guys, have you guys already kind of gone through the prep of all the closing docs and guidance through the closing process?
No,
Okay, that'd be a good one. You bet.
and this can be one of two ways. Like with my listing, every week I send out something every Monday. This is where we're at. This is what we're gonna do. Now, if you're big enough and you have somebody that does your transaction, then instead of just me, you have a team. So you can do it, you can play it both ways in the coordination.
I say keep track of all timelines and due dates.
There you go.
Well, that's true, that's right.
No.
If you're not paying attention and you have, all of a sudden your inspection period expire. How often do
So
buyers really track that?
I need to
Did you
think-
really say scuttle a deal?
I did.
Yes, she did.
I got it.
Aye,
Okay, you want to jump to another topic or did we beat this one up or you want some more?
Well,
What do
so
you
I
think?
have a guide to you buying your home that I shared that's kind of part of my presentation with buyers, and I got this from the Keller Williams stuff. And you get from us, and I have this amazing list that was already prepared. A knowledgeable and professional realtor who represents you. Thorough consultation to determine your unique wants, offending it, and needs in a home. Advice on making offers based on expert market evaluation, so you don't overpay. A committed ally who will complete your purchase contract, present your offer, negotiate on your behalf.
So tell you what, if you wouldn't mind emailing that to me,
Okay.
what I'll do is I'll be able to copy that and put that on this list.
So out of that, I came up with a buyer's consult and how important that is. And I know that there are some people who are very busy brokers that do not ever show a house until they sit through and they find out everything. What is it you really want? What can you live without? What's your lending situation? All of those things. I think that being really good at that, I think is going to help a lot of people. Okay.
Okay.
So we have this.
So we
and-
have that list. Thank you, Melody.
Well, I'm gonna email it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the thing that Melody touched on that's huge that we haven't discussed yet is the CMA, right, for buyers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
If they, Melody mentioned making sure they're not overpaying for a home. So if you're coming there, I mean, you want to have relationships with the listing agent, you can reach out to them and see how they came to the price they came to. You should also independently be taking a look at the market and see, maybe they came to that price 6 months ago when things were hotter. And this price makes no sense today.
That's, I thought of two things when you said that. One of them is a market analysis.
Yes.
Are we trending up, down, sideways, where we're going? But the second thing in the CMA is the specific property they're looking at is doing. CMA is about that property. So there's really two areas of expertise that we bring to the table.
And seeing whether the listing agent was actually looking at comparable properties that like good comparable properties, or if they were adjusting up and down. Because if you're just plugging in 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, that can get you homes that are
Well-
pretty different from the one you're selling.
There are brokers that have sellers that think their house is worth $1 million and they just want
And they
to
could be dealing with
list it
that
for $1
too.
million. They don't
They
have to
bought
do an
the listing.
analysis, you know?
Good addition.
Anything else? We can come back, we can jump around too, but I thought let's move into the one for the listing side.
Well, can I say something just for the buyer side? I mean, how about just, I mean, the time of showing homes and the ability to be able to, you know, show them anything that has a block box on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Showing homes also, yeah, and the time and the effort for preparing to do that, because don't you really research your MLS and print things out and do a lot of research in the property and figure out where it's at so you don't get lost and then.
Yeah, you're showing something on Badger Mountain and.
Oh, I know somebody that did that.
And if you don't have a vehicle to get in, or you don't know the person like how you live, the
Are we talking
area,
about
you
how
have to know that guy
Yes.
to get the key, to get in the first gate.
Just
Maybe
the
you can get in the
expertise.
first gate, but you can't get in the second gate.
Oh, we're talking about gate expertise.
Yes. Yes, there are levels.
Hey, wait a second. How about any Zoom contributions? We've been doing stuff. Anybody out there?
Amanda.
Amanda, thank you. Anything else?
Did you hear that, Amanda? Somebody said, we love you, Amanda.
I was hoping to be there today, but we've been having some epic car fails.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Okay. Oh, Ashley, yeah.
One more, and I might have just forgot. Shoot.
our memory.
Yeah. So when we talk about all these things, I know buyers really think money is a big part of it. So if they're like, well, I can get the listing agent to open the door, I can get the listing agent to do the contract.
Yes, you can.
Have them do all of this stuff, because it's gonna save me money. You know, because I can reduce the price of the house because they're not paying the buyer's agent. So I feel like that's kind of a hard thing to argue.
But they don't have your best interest.
I kind of, well, I guess I do kind of explain it like, well, if you're getting a divorce, are you gonna use the same divorce lawyer?
That
You gotta
is,
start saving
that is
money.
a great analogy.
You say that one, everyone's gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna work with you now.
Yeah, so divorce lawyers, I guess, put that. up there.
Yeah. That is a really great point.
I love
No,
that.
well, we're really good friends, so I could use the same guy.
Yeah, yeah, no.
I'm sure there's a small.
I don't know.
Can you hear that out there?
No. I would add one other thing, and I don't know how to word it, but I would just say like the sheer experience and creativity that you can use to come up with a contract. I think that there's buyers out there that don't know how creative you can be. Not necessarily money, but maybe terms, or, you know, we've been doing a lot with rent backs or credits. And I think that somebody who's not a professional wouldn't know what's available out there.
Yeah.
You got a designated broker in your hip pocket too, little back yet.
Oh, that's a big one.
I do have one more. Oh,
And Samantha is saying in the chat that for those of us in the back of the room, it is a little bit harder to hear our comments. The notes are helping though, but if we're back here, from the diaphragm, everybody.
okay, I have one.
All right, Kathy.
If there's people already, if they've already been looking at homes, have you looked at any homes yet? Yeah. How many times have you gone to go see a home that's already under contract by the time you get to see it?
Oh, yeah.
Or they come to the open house and it's like, I'm sorry, it's already under contract. If you're working with me, you're gonna get into those houses as soon as they become available.
So you're talking about catching things right when they come on the market. And not wasting time because something's gone pending before you get there.
And not waiting for the listing agent to get back to interest.
Now, working with a listing broker is not in your best interest. Okay, anything else? Okay, let's flip to another topic. Let's talk about listing. On the listing side. So what's the difference on the listing side that we want to put up here?
Might not be different. The same would be doing the CMA.
Right.
I gave the example where I had a person who was going to do FISBO. And I said, well, what do you think you can get for your house? And he told me what he thought he could get for his house. And after he went with me, he got $40,000 more than what he thought he was going to save by not using an agent.
Right.
Because I was able to do the CMA and present to him a better price.
That falls into that market analysis too. I mean, they need to know both of those, what's going on in the market versus how you position yourself. Okay, the CMA. That's a good one.
Yes, also if you have somebody that's wanting, if you have some. I can't talk. Can't.
Here comes Ashley.
So if you're having somebody that's thinking of doing FISBO, explaining to them the seller disclosure and how that can give the buyer a really clean out if they don't do it correctly. Maybe don't like tell them how they do it correctly, but yeah,
How to
just
do it correctly.
explain how that would be horrible.
You did great.
Thanks. Keep running back and forth.
Need another microphone back there.
Yeah, that might work.
We're working on it.
All right, Lauren, you have a list on these?
Well, it's very similar to the buyer list, but I think, yes, there's the CMA, that seller's disclosure, and then the typical physical things, right? Signage.
Signage?
Signage,
All your marketing stuff.
yeah, all of the marketing, physical marketing and digital marketing. I mean, I could go on and on. I think here is also it's a huge piece, especially if you are this agent, networking. You're getting out there and establishing those relationships with all of the buyers brokers that are going to be coming through, right? And you've hopefully been kind to them, given them opportunities to get offers in. Hopefully you're not the listing agent where they're finding out that it's already under contract before they've had a chance to say anything or do anything. That's happening less often now than it used to, but those things, I think a lot of the physical, like just presenting your home professionally is a big deal, right? So many FISBOs are just like, I'll put it up on Facebook and see if one of my friends has a buyer,
That
Yeah.
when you were saying that is trying to teach people how to make it presentable. I mean, I think we've all seen where people really deeply need to declutter.
Yes.
So I think the
Staging, is that what
No,
you're trying to
no,
say?
I think
I was really happy that my first listing, I didn't have to tell them they really removed snakes.
Oh.
In there, right as you walked in the front door, they had a great big thing of
Oh.
snakes. I was like, okay, let's put those in the garage.
it's okay. I had one up in Waterville and they had a collection of stuffed turkeys and
Lovely.
they were everywhere. Big ones, little ones. I mean,
It is Waterville.
yeah. Yeah, okay. But I think consulting and getting ready to show property, it's preparation as far as for getting the highest price for them when they list, and also the timing of listings. We also know our experts too. We have experts in the area of staging, experts in the area of photography, drones, whether they should get a pre-inspection. So just that experts that we could bring in to help them get the highest value for the property.
I think the biggest one is the time saver. Again, they've got to pack, maybe they're moving out of town, they've got to do all of that stuff. And now on top of that, they're gonna have to drop everything when somebody has to come in, fill out paperwork. They don't know what they're doing, so they have to research how to fill out the paperwork and so on and so forth.
Anything else?
A pre-inspection for a listing, they know all the, no surprises, let me just put that. Okay,
Yeah, there's no surprises and may help from double dipping during negotiations.
Oh, I don't know.
Anything else?
I would say the access and the power of your home being on the MLS.
There are what, 76,000 websites.
Yeah, NKWL.
I'd like to add something.
Go for it.
on all of this. It's very, very powerful if you truly believe it down deep inside that you are bringing them the value and that they truly are gonna be better off working with you. You know, that's because if they don't know what they don't know, and they don't do this for a job. This is something, you know, all of our experience with all different situations, you know, just is very powerful in, you know, helping them. Just like we don't know what they do for a job, you know, we wouldn't do as well. So yeah, these are great. Thanks, guys.
You know, that's a
Thanks,
really good,
Deborah.
that is really a good point, because I have just recently been working with a buyer on the buy side that loves telling me everything about their expertise on every house they've looked at and what the pricing is and what the price should be, not the listing price, but what it should be. And when they know more than you do,
See you later.
is very interesting, because we do this professionally for a living. And the things that we have to be able to offer them, I think that's a great statement, is that what is that value? And we have to believe in ourselves. That's a good one.
I heard that recently, that even more dangerous than what our clients don't know is what they think they know.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's, they become huge time wasters when they're like that.
Yeah.
I 100% never know anything.
And then I would say, knowing historically how commissions have been paid by a seller in the past and how still offering that is going to get them likely more buyers.
Okay.
Negotiating offers and knowing the lenders that the buyers would be working with. Just taking the time to call the lender and understand the questions to ask about underwriting, all the things.
And appraisals, all that, yeah. Anything else?
Can we talk a little bit about, so right now, if we're talking to somebody about a listing, from my understanding, part of what we're also going to now be talking to them more about is why they should be offering a commission to the buyer's agent.
Yep.
Can we dive a little deeper into that?
Yes.
So I suppose, I guess to start off, you know, one of the things is the buyer is already coming out of pocket with a bunch of cash. And it might be tough for them to come up with a commission as well.
That's a good one. A lot of buyers have a hard time coming up with, they're just trying to get in with what they have as far as down payment, earnest money, trying to scrape in with a loan to get in there. And then if there isn't something that's being offered by the seller out of the sale price.
Well, one of the things, the conversation, like initially that I have when I'm having that presentation is when I give my value proposition, I say, and I share what you pay me to find a buyer who's ready, willing, and able to buy your home. And that means using another agent who is doing the same thing for their buyer to get us to the closing table, because the goal is to get you to the closing table with this amount of money in your pocket at the end of the day, correct? And that's usually kind of the tipper, like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we want that. And because I'm working with people in my industry who are doing the same thing I'm doing for their buyers. And a lot of the times, the sellers I'm working with have either bought home or going to buy a home. And so I'm doing the same thing for them on the other side. And I explain that they're benefiting both ways. When they go to the buying side, if they have a seller who's doing the same thing they're doing, then they're not out of pocket at that point. But they really are. I mean, with the buyers
Well, it's the
paying the
cost of
whole
the
amount
house, yes,
anyways.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
they're And that's why this is just like blowing me out of the water that they're doing it like this. Because the buyer's actually paying. At some point, they're just spreading it out over their, however long their term of their loan is, or whether they're paying cash or not, they're still paying the whole thing.
Exactly.
It's in there somewhere.
I would say that you can approach this from a very practical dollars and cents kind of way. I mean, most sellers are coming with the upper hand in most of these. They have the equity. You know, there are sometimes cash buyers, but even then, the seller has the product. And that the buyer broker commission will come out one way or another, whether it's if the buyer has to pay for it, it's coming out of the price, period. And so they have to work through that.
Well,
Someone's got to pay it.
it's a good thing to have this conversation in the context that seller may see an offer come back in where there's going to be things like adding on for paying for the closing costs.
Yeah.
And also the way the forms are designed, asking them to pay more contribution towards the buyer broker. And when it gets down to the debit and credit sheet, we have to be careful because there's some lenders that will not like seeing it on, depending on what side of that.
Or they don't want to
that
see a
balance
certain
sheet
amount.
it's on.
I think a simple way to put it to your listing clients would be that if you're offering a buyer broker commission, it's allowing the buyer to finance the broker's fee.
That's good, Amanda.
Yeah, it will help you have more buyers that can afford to make it up.
Legally most conforming.
Well, VA won't.
Yeah.
Well, what else would you say to your seller?
With the exception of VA pool, then, is that what you're saying to this statement?
Yeah, the VA won't
Yeah.
pay any brokers fees at
That's what I
all.
mean. That's when the debit sheet, if it falls on the wrong side, they won't pay it.
Yeah, it's pretty much any conforming loan is going to have a hard time doing much. I mean, you can offer the commission back as toward closing costs if you want, but they're not going to pay directly to out of that mortgage. They're not going to pay directly to a buyer broker.
No, it won't.
Okay, so some loans won't
Won't
allow.
Won't allow
Most, I would say,
any funds
I
going
would
to
say
the buyer
most,
broker.
or they'll only allow a certain amount, which won't cover the entire commission.
Okay, that's good to know.
Actually sneaking up on
Whenever
us.
I
Come
come
on.
up here.
Okay, way to go.
I guess it's kind of on to the next subject. If anybody has anything more for this, I can
We
wait.
can always bounce around, so we can come back.
Okay.
Which topic are you going to?
Being able to supply the seller with a net sheet, because I feel like a lot of them don't understand the cost of selling, and they just think they're gonna get the number that they're selling it for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so important. So they don't find out at closing what
And then
their
they get
actual
pissed and
proceeds
they
are
don't
going to
sign,
look
and that
like.
would be just absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
So. Knowing which title companies suck.
Yeah.
And lenders, I guess that kind of goes back to negotiating offers, but.
Yeah, I did learn something. We had a deal up in Oroville, and I learned that you have to use the title company in that county for that property. You don't have to use the same escrow company.
That's
You can
correct.
use any escrow company, but you have to use the title company that's in that county where that house is located.
Yep.
I learned that. I did not know that. I thought I could use any title company I wanted.
And then if you use somebody outside of the county, then just allow at closing extra days for documents to
Yeah.
be sent and for it then to be recorded. Unless you're like our favorite person, Vanessa George, who will drive there and so to record the documents.
Right.
I love that.
All right. Sorry,
Well,
shameless.
but you're right. Knowing
Shameless
the
plug.
title
That's all
companies and the ones who are gonna get the deal
Yeah,
done
yeah.
at the end of the day are the one, and the ones that just sit on it and just
The
is
ones
like,
you have to
"Oh."
poke every 2 days. to make sure
Yes.
they're doing the job and then you
Yeah.
feel
Well,
like an
And
ass.
then they're like,
got
oh,
it.
yeah.
That works on the buyer and listing side, but really the relationship with lenders and with escrow companies, title companies is a huge advantage because we do it professionally for a living and we have these relationships and they're very important in being able to see whether a deal is held together or falls apart.
Well, it's great to have an escrow or a title company that will call you and say, hey, I found this, we updated the title report the day that they sent it to you and they said, I noticed this on there.
Mhm.
Maybe you should check into that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a win on my,
Yeah.
my book.
Absolutely.
It shows up on your.
How are we doing on time?
Yeah.
We got about 10 minutes.
Let's jump to the KW for a little bit, and then we can finish off by bouncing around if anybody wants to add anything else. So KW, what are the things that we can bring to the table that Keller Williams offers?
Yeah, here he is.
And
Keller
here he comes to
Mortgage.
help us contribute to the KW list.
Hey, it's Russ.
Just in time.
Hold up, peeps. We're on Zoom.
I would
Yep.
say Keller Mortgage, because then we can advertise the special financing. Well, I guess are we talking both buyer and seller in
This one here is the company that applies to both.
But
Gotcha.
yeah,
Huge
for the
referral network.
listing, it's huge.
Yeah, because then you can say special financing and the buyers. and then
That's
they can
right.
save more.
Yeah,
Um,
I ours would say what she said, referral network, that's,
mhm,
I've worked 6 in my first year.
mhm,
because of stuff.
Yeah,
How many brokers do we have on the other side, Russ?
About 7,000.
So we have 7,000 KW brokers in our network on the other side.
Northwest, yeah, and then there's probably 4,000 or 5,000 just on the each side. There's a bunch of information we can extrapolate just from basic listing presentations
7,000 brokers in the west side.
for Keller Williams that can help us if you lean in and rehearse it and understand it. So we don't have to, the one thing about this company, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like this is great because it kind of gets your brain turning, but the reality is we could just plug into Keller Williams University and this has been done to death. And so there's probably things that have been brainstormed over the last 25 years that we can resonate with. So it might be one of those things that we go get and then we start highlighting which ones apply, and it might be a more efficient use of our time, but because there's always more, right? The more people you put together, you put 200,000 people together and you start asking them a question, you're going to, iron sharpens iron right down to the best presentation, which is already out there for us. And then each individual can extrapolate from what applies that they resonates with them and they're good at, so they can kind of be themselves. But I mean, that's what I would think we just have, Lauren, we just maybe get a class together on listing presentations and a class on buyer presentation.
Absolutely.
Because that's where we dive deep into how to do it, right? And we all have different levels of experience. We all have different personalities. So to me, that's the best way to do it, is actually just have classes on it specific for that. And identify what are the best people saying? What are the most effective scripts? And that's what we're talking about here with value propositions. It's just script work. It's not rocket science. You know what I mean?
and I would
I'm not
say,
sure though if a buyer or seller might find that as a value to them.
Well, the script is specifically designed to give them a value proposition for us.
Yeah, and
That's what I mean.
if they know that you are getting education, that you're continuing to stay up on, I'm sure they've met agents who probably haven't done much in the way of actual continuing ed,
Yeah.
aside from what they need to renew their license, which is just sit there and click a button until it's done.
mhm,
But, if they know that you are specifically training to be their best agent, I think that can bring some value for sure.
then I would say too, just being able to say that we have a DV and contracts people that have been in the business a lot of years and they know a lot of things. So. Resources.
Yeah, there's no question, like if you started something and you're brand new at it. The one nice thing about having the largest real estate company in all of North Central Washington is that you can say that. And that we collaborate and that we're a profit sharing company. Did you know we're a profit sharing company? No. How does that help me? Well, because we share information with each other. We are an asset to one another. We know about things that other people don't know about before they happen. There's nothing like a little takeaway clause to think that somebody's going to lose something if they don't work with you. You don't have to have experience for that because, like Ashley said, other people do. What happens so often in companies that get egos is that that are not profit sharing companies, for one. I mean, one of the nice things about profit sharing companies is when we get to a certain level, try to imagine if we go get 20% of other people's market share. We get to 150 agents. Now we're making some real money. In this model, because we pay out so much, it's hard to make big profit until you get to about 100, 150 people. You start getting stable at about 125. Right? The average market center is about 250. So when you're talking to a buyer and you're like, hey man, look, I am brand new to real estate, which is really good for you. You know why? Because I'm hungry. I'm gonna work my ass off for you. That's why. So would you like me to dig up every FSBO that I can find? Would you like me to take your words? You tell me in a buyer consultation what you want, and then I'll go find it. And I'll go find it by turning over every rock in town if I have to. Would you like me to call FSBOs? Would you like me to call expires? Would you like me to call other brokers and go have cocktails with them so they'll tell me what they're really doing? Not what's in the MLS. This is passion and focus. You know, I have 86 other real estate brokers I can talk to, and I guarantee you they're working on stuff. Or you can work with somebody that's got a big ego and it's all by themselves. I'm not. I'm a team player. Differentiate or die in this business. But you got to come with some intensity. So you take the scripts, and we'll have a class on this. We're happy to do it. But take the scripts and we modify them. By the way, you know what the best script in the history of the world was in my life? Rusty, if you don't put that down, I'm going to get the wooden spoon. And it evoked a serious, like, visceral emotion in me as a child.
Probably often, I'm assuming.
She didn't have to change the script either time. I'm gonna tell your dad. So when someone says scripts don't work, that's a script. My mom had that script down, but she didn't have to invent another word. She just had the same script and it worked every time. And when didn't, she said, I'm gonna tell your dad, and then that worked. But you think about so often the value proposition is, look, do you think all people are created equal? Maybe they already think they all work the same. Do you think we all as realtors wake up one day after our 90 hours of class and we say, all right, well, we're a socialistic country now, so we're all equal? You think that's true in accounting? Do you think that's true in attorneys? Do you think it's true in life insurance, teachers? Or do you think maybe there's a difference between us? Because here's the good news. If we were all exactly the same, then rate matters. Pay the lowest one. But, you know, do you think a Lamborghini and a Volkswagen Bug are the same price? Now I can toot my horn all day, right? I can sit here and tell you how good I am, or I can show you and prove it to you. And you do have to have some faith in me to do that. So I should have some market knowledge when I'm talking to you. These are things in our productivity coaching program. When you're brand new, you go into that and you start to learn how to be a professional versus how to be an amateur. It starts by mindset. You wake up in the morning and you go, today I'm going to be a professional, not an amateur. You know what the biggest myth in real estate is? And I'm kind of talking like I'm talking to a buyer. You know what the biggest myth in real estate is? That we all work 80 hours a day. We don't. You know what the rule of 168 is? It's 24 hours times 7 days a week. That's the most hours anybody could work a week. So if someone says I work 200 hours a week, they're lying to you. Here's what I do. I work 3 hours a day, working my ass off, generating people like you to work with. And then I take people like you and a couple hours in the afternoon and I go sell you something because I know the market. I tell you the truth. I don't try to pretend somebody I try to be somebody I'm not. I will always be honest with you. You see the difference? Like some of this stuff is pretty basic, right? But if you don't believe it and you're not a professional and you're not honest and you're not previewing and you're not learning your market and you're not going to contracts class and you're not going to be seeing Rebecca Del Pozo and you're not going to be seeing Jan Ellingson, then you're a freaking amateur. And you can't sell yourself as a professional. That's the value proposition. Are you a professional? What do you want to do when you wake up and grow up for a living? At some point in a shift, you have to decide, am I going to win the day or am I going to be a casualty? Because any one of us can do either one. It's really a choice about our life. And see, these are the conversations that I have with buyers. I had a buyer sign a 6% fee to me on a buyer agency agreement yesterday. It's gonna be a lot of money, several $100,000 commission. And I'm only gonna represent the buyer. And then I put in there, if the seller pays me, you don't have to, but I'm getting paid. And I put it in 4 counties for a year. And I made it every affiliated company you could think of. So I locked them down. Why would they sign that? Right? They have faith that I can help them more than anybody else can help them. So it's like this. Buyer agency agreements have been one of these things that have been around a while. But it's kind of like, would you list a, I mean, it's to me, it's, they're not hard because you just have to ask them what level of service they want. But it starts with, are you doing their work? I mean, are you able to do the work to tell them with confidence that you're going to be able to do the work? And look them in the eye, even on Zoom. Harder. I don't know, is that, I mean, I'm curious how you guys feel, because you know, this is how I feel about the business. I feel that anybody can do this business. And they can do it really, really well. It's a simple business. They say it's a simple business, and I agree. It's not an easy business. But give me one thing in life that is freaking easy, that is worthwhile. Like, I don't know what. Sometimes I wonder, you know, it's like, I was just having a conversation and we were talking about how the word grind is a non-starter for some people. It's like a buzzword now. When you use the word grind, it's like, you guys heard of a quiet resignation or
Quiet quitting.
Quiet
Right.
quitting.
Yeah.
So you tell me to grind, and they just sit there on the computer and whatever. They don't do anything until they get fired. Then they go to another job. It's like, what happened to pride? Like, I don't get it. I just never got it, because I think there is, in this conversation I just had, I think there is a definitional difference in all of our minds these days, that the word grind means I'm not going to be able to see my family, not going to be able to see my kids. I'm not going to have time to do my hobbies that I love. But I think maybe we're struggling with that a little bit, because I really look at grind means like work 3 hours a day in the morning, really intense, work 2 hours a day in the afternoon, do it 5 days a week and make 75,000.
Yeah.
You have to work 80 hours a week if you're screwing off. And you're on Facebook and you're talking, you know, like you're not doing anything, you're having lunch and you're doing this. But if you really buckle down 3 hours in the morning, every morning, and lead generate, and then set those appointments for 2 hours in the afternoon, maybe do a couple open houses on the weekend, you make 75 grand a year. I swear you would. But how many people do it? Like, I mean, bunker build like a special forces sniper for 3 hours a day. Like nothing gets in your way. And then from there, when we talk about a value proposition, it comes from your soul. when you're talking to somebody. And then here's the other thing. Don't be afraid to loop people in. The one thing that I've learned about Keller Williams culture, and you know, it's not everybody, but you'd be surprised how many people will help you if you raise your hand and ask. If you have a listing appointment and you say, hey, you know, Russ, can you help me on this listing appointment? I'll go. And I'm sure we will all do that, because reciprocating loyalty is an asset to a company that's as large as we are. Use the size of our company combined with your own professionalism and intensity to wipe the streets with the competition and get freaking competitive. And then you go to a value proposition and say, sign this 6% commission on $7 million
Either one.
deal. And you're gonna pay me, even if the seller doesn't. That's $420,000 commission. KWT. It's available to every one of us in this room.
One last thing, KWLS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
KWLS.
Was that a rant?
It
That was.
That was a real.
I
I'm
think,
trying to make it right now.
Russ, it's important that we internalize all this, that it not just be, I mean, start with the bullet points, but internalize that and ask yourself, do I provide this value? And if you do, get passionate about it, because it should be, if somebody else
Is that what that
is really, I mean, if we really are all playing on the same level playing field, no one has an unfair advantage, no one is higher quality than anybody else, then you're absolutely right, pay the lowest rate. Right? If you're going to be getting the same thing for less money, do that. But if you know that you're worth what you charge, get passionate about it. It does no one any good for you to have all that value and for you to keep it to yourself.
Yeah, you gotta get bold. And to be bold, you have to be confident. And to be confident, you have to be educated. To be educated, you have to lean in and show up.
Yep.
And practice. And name a business that isn't like that. I mean, this isn't like any different than anything else you'd ever do.
Yeah.
You know, if you're an athlete, you gotta practice. There's always a new athlete that'll take your job. You're as good as your last game.
Yeah, if you want to be a surgeon, you can't be apathetic about anatomy.
Yeah.
You got to know where stuff is.
Yeah, it's but it is an interesting, there is this time in history right now where these conversations are becoming, to me, that what happens in a shift, and I've been through a couple of them, right? It's a perfect opportunity to separate yourself from the pack. Because most people, in fact, I would like you to listen to the radio show that I'm going to post later today on YouTube. And it's just me talking like this. And I know it might be painful.
With a couple of commercials.
I always wondered why you've never hosted yourself.
I just put it doing me today.
I know.
I put the soapbox there and I just got on it. Because I care about people and I see people that are going to be casualties that don't need to be. I've seen it my whole career. I've also seen people that have very, they're not natural born killers, but they do incredibly well because they're passionate and they're serious about their profession and they want to help people. They don't want to half-ass helping people. I mean, see, to me,
You want to always full ass helping people.
yes. Yeah, you know, it always surprises me when people forget that we're in the helping people business. And they'll say, what's your goal? 100 grand a year. It's always the goal. Oh, so you want to help? What's the average commission, guys? What's the average commission?
X%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm old school, so I'm gonna tell you, it's like $14,000.
Right now, yeah.
Right
Well, the
now,
average
before
salary
October 3rd,
is
it's $14,000. And so how many people do you have to help to make 100 grand?
36.
Is it 36? When you're
I
capping at
got it on the
17?
whiteboard. I got it on the whiteboard.
Capping at 17?
I guess
I'd
how
say?
many appointments you have to take.
Yeah, I think you're gonna sell one house a month to make a lot of damn money.
Yep.
Like one family a month you help and you make 100 grand a year. Oh, that puts it in perspective.
Yep.
That's crazy. You know, I don't have to sell 3 million widgets. Nope. Just one family, one person a month. See, there are some markets, the average sales price is like 100 grand. Ours is not that. And we have this little thing called Lake Chelan. We have this little thing called Leavenworth. So if you really want to get those, be Mr. Rhett Crowe, did 75 million last year or whatever, start selling some of that shit, right? Because then those $2-3 million deals make some serious money. But this is to me, to your point, like it has to be connected. Like the stats, the bullet points, the actual, the KWLS stuff, the MLS, sharing our listings, networking, all the marketing that we do, the radio shows that we do, the videos. You see, when you start to learn how to leverage everything else in a conversation and you do it with passion and you believe it yourself, they're sold. They're sold because they don't care how long you've been in business. Because even sometimes being in business too long is a detriment. A lot of times it is, right? Because we think we know everything. You're all that in a bag of chips and you forgot to be learning based. And you're antiquated, you're archaic. Your language isn't even like, if I'm talking to a 20-year-old and I'm 53 and I got to learn how to talk. I got to learn how to communicate and be a chameleon a little bit, mirror and match a little bit, but do it with passion. I'm not lying. I'm just kind of changing it up. Right. But if you think about it, are you doing that? Are we doing that? Because man, I'll tell you what, in a shift, the barn door is open and there is money to be made. Money to be made. Because there will people be resigning. And you're going to be pressing. But not working 80 hours a week. Just working with focus and passion. Not 7 days. That leads straight to burnout. Just lean into each other. And then all of a sudden, these bullet points become part of who you are. And when someone feels like you're really there to help them, they will sign a buyer agency. But if you try to read something off a clipboard, let me show you the CMA that I did for your house. There's a house on 123 Main Street, and this is how we calculated it. There, would you like to listen to me?
I'm out the door at that point.
I come in and tell people, you know what I'm not going to do is give you a CMA. You know why? Because I know the market off the top of my head. Unless you really want it, it's right here. It's in this envelope. Well, how about I just tell you what's in that envelope first, then I'll leave it here with you. How's that sound? Because you know what most people are going to do? Michael, most people are going to print stuff off a computer that they've never seen. They're going to read you some stats like they actually did some research instead of just hit a few buttons. And then they're going to try to get you to sell it for the lowest price possible so they can make a fast commission. I'm not. How would you like me to get you the most amount of money possible in the least amount of time and keep you out of prison? And me out of prison. That's always a plus. And here's how I'm going to do it.
That's why this
Yeah, I'm gonna keep us both out of prison.
Sarah's
When
new
does prison
script.
get involved?
Do you-
Yeah.
How do
None of
you
us looked
feel
at it
about the
already.
color orange?
I hear it's the new black.
Here's another one. You can do a deal on the back of a napkin as long as we get along for about 4 generations. In other words, we have to follow some protocols. Trust me, I don't like to. I like to do deals on napkins. But the damn state of Washington tells me I have to use these stupid forms. See, if you just incorporate whatever your personality is, and the thing, the 4 rules, you guys know the 4 rules? I've probably said them all 100 times. I'll say them again. Sell real estate. These are the only 4 rules you need to know.
Sorry about it.
What is it, Tom?
Oh, that's okay.
No, I do it.
Do it
Be
today, not
honest,
tomorrow.
Be yourself, be honest, and do it today, not tomorrow.
10 years working with me. It comes down to 4 things. You're selling widgets, know how many colors you have, how many sizes you have. So get out there and look at houses. It's a pretty fun job. Call some other people, get to know them, take them out for coffee, or shots of tequila. I don't care. Or whiskey with Sarah. And you'll develop relationships, right? And get along with some people and broaden your network, right? So know your product. Be yourself. That's where the passion comes from. Because if you try to fake it, it's just phony. It's not gonna be, just be you times two. Because that's what people want. There's never been a greater time in my life than now, where authenticity and vulnerability is as sexy as it's ever been. It's what people want. That's what they want you to be, you times two. But be passionate, because we're in a passionate business, right? Then do today, not tomorrow, because you know how many times I've seen in my career where the phone rings, somebody would be on the floor and they'd be like, I want to list my house. I'm thinking about selling my house. And then this agent that's on floor goes, all of a sudden, visceral fear comes over because they don't know the market. They haven't previewed anything, right? They just show up on floor time or whatever, right? They're not a professional, they're an amateur. So then all of a sudden they go, well, let me check my calendar. They don't have a calendar, but they put the phone over here. How about next Thursday? Buying time. So there's a rule. When someone's in the mood to sell, let them sell. When someone's in the mood to buy, let them buy. And that's do it today, not tomorrow. Have some urgency. And then when that person gets off the phone and you're like, great, what are you doing right now? I'll be there in 20 minutes. Or how does 4 o'clock today work? I'm ready. Do you know we have buyers right now in my database that are waiting for something like this? I need to come see you. I need to see if I'm right. I think I am. That's urgency, right? People like that because they're about to pay you a lot of money to do something for them. They'd like you to be excited about it. They'd like you to be passionate. It's like if I asked a girl out in high school and she was like, oh, you want to go on a date? I'll check my calendar. Doesn't make me feel very good. I get more insecure.
Like, I'm gonna get married tomorrow.
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, all of a sudden, I'm not that important.
Yeah, work you in.
I'm free
What do
3
you have,
Thursdays from now.
where are you taking me?
Yeah, right.
That'd be my-
Yeah, let's go. What are you doing? Take me out to the steak and lobster, or are you going to McDonald's? I don't care. I like it. Let's go. Right? And this is, it sounds funny, but you know, guys, we forget that this is just a people business. It's just a relationship business. It has some tactics and strategies built into it. But if you're honest and you do it today, not tomorrow, and you know your product, and what's the other one? Be yourself. If you just do those 4 things and then fill in the classes, you know, try to glean stuff. When there's an opportunity to meet like a Rebecca Del Pozo for free,
Take it.
take it.
it.
Yes.
Keller Williams, and you can show that to a buyer. Say, hey man, we have classes all the time. You know who does classes all the time? Our broker. He's been at 400 years and he's still taking classes all the time because he learns from every one of us. Because we all learn from each other. And you know, we're the largest real estate company in North Central Washington. We're the largest real estate company in Washington State. We're the largest real estate company in the United States. We're the largest real estate company in the world with over 58 countries at our disposal. You think that's a pretty good network? This company is a badass company, people. Start selling it like that. Get cocky sometimes. Get a little bit confident in yourself. Because guess what? When people hire you as an assassin, they want you to win. They don't want you to be timid, but be yourself. Because being confident is different for every one of us, right? Whatever your confident is, whatever your security, when you're secure in your business and you're professional and you've done your homework and you've worked hard, whatever that is to you and that passion is to you, be that. That's the be yourself. Then when a buyer agency agreement is put in front of you, they will sign it. One of my scripts is, like in Chelan, because that's where I do a lot, is do you know, like if I'm talking to a buyer that says, hey, I'm looking at something, I'd like to talk to you, or I called the sign, or you've called them, or however you got in contact, all of a sudden they're looking at buying something. Do you want to see only what's in the compute doc? What? Oh, are you looking on Zillow, Michael? Do you hunt for homes online? That's like 90% of the people get their leads. That's how we get our leads. So like, everybody looks online, right? Probably look at Zillow, look at maybe our site or realtor.com or, Google it, whatever. Do you think, let me ask you this, do you think all of the listings are on the computer? On the web, do you think they're all on there? Do you think sometimes that the best listings never hit the market? Why do you think that is? Why do you think the best listings sometimes never become listings?
Because somebody's doing the work and going out and knocking on the doors and saying, hey, I got somebody who wants your home.
Here's what I know about growing up in a small town. When John the farmer and Sally the farmer want to retire and move south, one of the hardest decisions in their life is to tell their neighbors they're leaving. So you know what they often do to me? They'll call me and they'll say, hey, Russ, will you sell our place? But don't tell anybody. I always tell them that's harder. I can't tell anybody, it's harder to sell it. But you know what they really mean by that, Michael? They want me to go find the perfect buyer for them.
No one's gonna love their property the way they love it.
And they just want it sold, and they'll talk to me, but they won't sign a listing agreement. See, it's not a pocket listing, that's illegal. But it's a relationship that I have. Would you like access to those relationships as my client? Because when the inventory is low like it is now and the prices are high like they are now, sometimes when I represent you, you'll get the best of it. It's takeaway things. Like there's something in it, and you know how real that is? That is as real as it gets. That happens all the time, doesn't it? We all know people that are thinking about selling. We don't have to have a listing to work it. What we have to do is convince a buyer that we work every day in this business and that we have something that they want, whether it's our knowledge, whether it's our charisma, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our friends and family, our sphere. All of these things become very, very valuable to a buyer, right? And when they start telling you what to do, sometimes you don't hire those people. I always tell people, sometimes when I go to the doctor and I'm feeling really confident, like I had a compound fracture in my leg once, and I started telling him how to set my leg and what anesthesia to use and how, and he listened to me. I realized that he was the wrong doctor.
I was a vet.
Do you know why I knew? Because he was listening to me. I knew he was the wrong doctor because I think you have to go to med school, and I didn't. And he listened to me. That's not the doctor I want. I want the doctor that says, that's cute, but I went to med school.
We have the med set right.
I keep
Anyway.
telling them I don't want to practice in doctor.
So how would you guys like to get a class put together of bullet points, and then I can intertwine it with some of these scripts that I've just developed over time? Should we do that?
Yeah,
sounds
good. As this thing gets closer and we need more work on this buyer consultation and buyer broker
I
agreement.
think the hardest part is gonna be just changing things up to start the new thing, but once we get rolling and kind of know what we're doing.
Well, the only constant in life, my friend, is change.
Shame.
That's the beautiful thing, because nobody likes it. That's how you separate yourself from the herd.
Yeah.
Everybody hates change.
Oh, you're the best, Russ.
And Samantha,
Forgot I had an audience.
Sam Raines seconds that too. She says, yes, please. So
Yeah, I think we're gonna kick everybody's, you know what? That's what I think.
thank you, Russ. Thank you, Tom and Marcia.
Next week, we're gonna go into the forms because there's 41C is now a new form that complements the process. You don't need to use it on every deal. There's certain applications for it. So we're gonna lay those out and walk through all those scenarios.
There's some new Form 1s that are coming out too that'll be adjusting the listing agreements.
There's
too.
some forms that aren't coming out until the 3rd.
You can see the red, yeah, they've got a red line version over there. So we'll go over those next week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you,
Have a
everybody.
Great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.